The Golden Age and the First Crack. In the sun-drenched summer of 2019, a phenomenon was born. The Untamed wasn't just a television show. It was a cultural earthquake that reshaped the landscape of Chinese entertainment. At its epicenter were two young men, Xiao Zhan, the painter-turned-actor with a smile that could melt glaciers, and Wang Yibo, the cool, aloof dancer whose intensity burned with a silent fire. Together, as Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji, they weren't just acting, they were alchemy. The chemistry was palpable, electric, spilling from the screen into a million fan edits, fanfictions, and a collective delusion of a bond deeper than friendship. This was the Boujun Yixiao era, a golden age manufactured for public consumption. Their interactions on variety shows were dissected like sacred texts. A shared glance during a game on Happy Camp became a declaration. A subtle smile from Wang Yibo aimed at a laughing Xiao Zhan was proof of an unbreakable connection. Their agencies, sensing a golden goose, fed the narrative. Joint appearances, coordinated outfits, and carefully worded social media posts kept the machine well-oiled. The CP coupling, fandom, a formidable army of devotion, grew exponentially, pouring money into their endorsements and defending their idols with ferocious loyalty. But beneath the glittering surface, the first hairline cracks began to appear. It started subtly. At a post-show press conference, a question was directed at both, but Wang Yibo's answer was clipped, almost dismissive, his eyes not quite meeting Xiao Zhan's. Fans called it his Lan Wangji coolness, but industry insiders saw something else, the faintest flicker of fatigue. Then came the endorsements. Once complimentary, they began to overlap. Xiao Yibo was the face of high-end skatewear. Xiao Zhan announced an ambassadorship for a rival athletic line. Xiao Zhan was the king of beverages. Wang Yibo signed with a competing soda giant. The rivalry was no longer just fan speculation, it was corporate strategy. Whispers in the industry spoke of tense negotiations behind closed doors. The two actors, once seemingly inseparable colleagues, were now being pitted against each other in a brutal battle for market share. The first real chasm, however, was not between the stars themselves, but within their fandoms. A fringe group of Wang Yibo's solo fans, who despised the CP narrative they felt diminished his individual talent, began a covert campaign. They targeted Xiao Zhan with insidious rumors, questioning his acting chops, his background, even his personal life. The attacks were like poison darts, small but venomous, designed to slowly erode his pristine image. Xiao Zhan's fans, the Xiao Xia, initially took the high road. But the pressure was building. The Golden Age was showing its tarnish. The two stars, trapped in the gilded cage of their own success, were beginning to realize they were no longer just actors. They were brands, assets, and pawns in a much larger, darker game. The stage was set for an explosion, and all it needed was a single spark. The Inferno of 227 and the Silent Divide. The spark came in February 2020. It began, as modern scandals often do, not in a tabloid office, but in the obscure corners of the internet. A controversial piece of fanfiction featuring Xiao Zhan was published on the international platform Archive of Our Own, AO3. To the militant solo fans of Wang Yibo, this was the ultimate blasphemy, a piece of writing that, in their eyes, grotesquely feminized their idol's former co-star. But their retaliation was not aimed at the anonymous writer alone, it was a scorched earth campaign. In a highly coordinated move, thousands of these fans reported the AO3 website to Chinese authorities, citing violations of content laws. Their weapon was the state's own censorship apparatus. The result was catastrophic. The entire AO3 platform, a vast, non-profit archive cherished by global fandom, was blocked in China. The backlash was immediate and nuclear. Not just Xiao Zhan's fans, but entire communities of anime lovers, K-pop stans, and Western media enthusiasts who used AO3 saw their creative haven destroyed. Overnight, the 227 incident, named for February 27th, was born. A coalition of enraged netizens united under one banner, the anti-Xiao Zhan movement. Their goal was not just to criticize, but to annihilate his career. They bombarded his commercial partners with demands to drop him. They flooded his social media with hate, They gave his films and TV shows mass one-star ratings before they even aired. And through it all, a deafening silence emanated from one person, Wang Yibo. His silence was a Rorschach test. To Xiao Zhan's besieged fans, it was a monstrous betrayal. Where was the best friend, who had laughed with their idol just months ago? Their desperation turned to bitterness. Whispers became shouts. Wang Yibo's fans started this, and he's too cowardly to stop them. They theorized that this was a deliberate, cold-blooded move by Wang Yibo's team to eliminate his biggest competitor by using the fanbase as a blunt instrument. To Wang Yibo's supporters, his silence was prudent neutrality. Why should he wade into a firestorm started by a fringe element? Speaking out could be misconstrued, implicating him further. They saw Xiao Zhan's team as incompetent for failing to control their own fandom, and viewed the entire incident as a tragic but convenient unmasking of Xiao Zhan's unstable fanbase. The two stars were now on opposite sides of a canyon of hatred, dug by their own followers. Publicly, they were ghosts to each other. No mentions, no birthday wishes, no sightings. The Bojun Yixiao ship had not just sunk, it had been vaporized. Xiao Zhan was forced into a months-long hiatus, his career hanging by a thread. Wang Yibo, meanwhile, soared, his schedule packed with variety shows and endorsements. The contrast was stark, and to many, deeply suspicious. The narrative of a bitter rivalry was no longer a subtext, it was the only text that remained. The puppeteers in the shadows. As the dust from 227 began to settle, a more chilling question emerged. Were the fans merely passionate soldiers, or were they unwitting pawns in a much more sophisticated game? The sheer scale, coordination, and timing of the attacks pointed to forces far more powerful than any fan club president. This is where the theory of media manipulation takes root. The entertainment industry in China is a cutthroat battlefield of competing agencies, streaming platforms, and capital. The rise of Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo had disrupted the ecosystem. They were taking coveted spots in major productions, snatching multi-million-dollar endorsements from under the noses of more established, company-managed stars. Insiders began to speak of Heigongguan, black public relations firms. These are shadowy organizations hired not to build reputations, but to destroy them. Their methods are insidious. They infiltrate fan groups, posing as ultra-dedicated supporters. They plant seeds of discord with expertly crafted rumors. They provide the funding and strategic direction for large-scale online attacks, all while maintaining perfect deniability. Could it be that a rival company, threatened by Xiao Zhan's meteoric rise, hired such a firm to orchestrate the 227 incident? The target wasn't just Xiao Zhan, but the entire CP fandom, a powerful, unified economic bloc. By triggering a civil war between the fandoms, the manipulators effectively fractured their buying power and neutralized two competitors with one masterstroke. The evidence, while circumstantial, is compelling. The specific targeting of AO3 was a genius-level move. It wasn't a typical fan squabble, it was a calculated act designed to provoke the wrath of the entire Chinese internet subculture, ensuring the backlash would be of apocalyptic proportions. Furthermore, the relentless negative trends about Xiao Zhan on Weibo often appeared with a speed and consistency that felt inorganic, as if following a pre-planned script. What about Wang Yibo? Was he a willing participant in this takedown, or another piece on the board? The persistent theory is one of a gentleman's agreement among top agencies to avoid direct confrontation, letting their artists and, by extension, their fan armies, fight the proxy wars. Wang Yibo's team, according to this dark view, simply stood back and let the hurricane hit their rival, capitalizing on the vacuum it created. Every time Xiao Zhan stumbled, Wang Yibo's star rose a little higher. The rivalry, then, was not merely personal animosity, but a reflection of a brutal corporate war where the artists themselves were the primary weapons and the ultimate casualties. A chilling new normal and the ghosts of the past. Years have passed since the inferno. Both Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo have, against all odds, not only survived but solidified their positions as top-tier megastars. Xiao Zhan made a phoenix-like return, his fanbase more loyal and organized than ever. Wang Yibo has become an unstoppable force in film, dance, and motorsports. Publicly, they are parallel lines, destined never to meet again. They attend the same award shows, but their paths are choreographed with military precision to avoid any intersection. Cameras capture them in the same building but never in the same frame. This cold, professional distance is the most thrilling and realistic evidence of the deep scars. There are no public blow-ups, no petty social media jabs. The hatred, if it exists, has been refined into a permanent, icy silence. It is a rivalry fought in the subtext, in competing box office numbers, in bidding wars for intellectual property, in the subtle battle for the cover of the next mega-fashion magazine. The fan wars have not ceased, they have institutionalized. They are a permanent feature of the online landscape, flaring up with predictable regularity around birthdays, new releases, or anniversaries of past conflicts. The media, too, is complicit. Tabloids feed the beast with cryptic headlines. Xiao Zhan's new drama ratings soar, leaving Wang Yibo's latest project in the dust? Or, Wang Yibo's high-fashion endorsement a silent rebuke to rivals' mass-market appeal? Every achievement by one is instantly framed as a loss for the other. The lingering, haunting question is, what is the truth behind their icy silence? Is it the bitterness of a man who felt abandoned in his darkest hour, facing a colleague who stood by and watched? Or is it the resentment of a man who was unfairly blamed for a catastrophe he didn't create, forever tied to a scandal that threatens to overshadow his own hard-won success? Perhaps the most terrifying possibility is that the manipulation was so successful, the lines between fiction and reality have been permanently blurred, even for them. They may no longer remember the origin of the rift, only the deeply ingrained corporate mandate to never, ever acknowledge the other. They have become prisoners of their own fame, their relationship fossilized into a narrative of hatred crafted by unseen hands. The fan wars and the media manipulation are not two separate things. They are a self-perpetuating cycle, a dark engine that drives their fame, ensuring that even years after the Untamed faded from the screens, the war between Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji continues to rage, with no end in sight.